Spring season. If you look outside, though, the grass is green. There's blossoms in the trees. It's a wonderful time to be outside or inside a movie theater, as we're talking about Cinemaniacs. Or maybe you want to be in your home and watching something in the comfort of your own living room. We're going to talk about that right now this morning with Nathan McVeigh. I was bragging to him during the commercial break. He's gotten me so amped up about the Avengers, which is broken records. I don't think anybody's surprised about how much money it's made globally. But I caught up with 5 movies over the weekend.
Wow.
So I'm like, I am bound and determined to make sure.
We did it, Iowa. We got her to watch comic book movies.
I got 5, and I was talking plot points. I'm like, okay, what do I have left?
She's quizzing me. She's making sure the details are right. I'm feeling on the spot. It's good. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. I will get to the end game and enjoy this movie that is making so much money. There has to be a reason, because a lot of people are giving it some great praise. But there's some movies out there that maybe don't always get the highest.
Exactly.
praise.
You know, to understand greatness and appreciate it, you have to understand the worstness.
The junk.
So it's good. Like, you know, Endgame was outstanding. It deserved it. Shattered records, made so much money because it's great. But in order to really understand what an accomplishment it is, you have to go back and kind of look at where comic books went wrong entirely, because you learn from your mistakes.
Because this last run of the movie, the Avengers movie this weekend, I heard a stat that said that 9 out of 10 people that were in a theater this weekend were seeing that movie.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Just looking through to see all the the theaters that were sold out. It's crazy. Like, that's what everyone was doing. It's great. It's so good.
But we're going to be looking at the other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. And, you know, I got to establish my credibility. I can come on here all the time and be like, this movie's great. This movie's great. You're like, this guy loves everything. Surprise for you, I don't love everything.
All right.
We're going to talk about some junk today.
Okay, comic book junk.
Yes, so I think we're going to start with the worst.
The worst.
The worst. And this one's regarded as one of the worst movies of all time. It's Catwoman, starring Halle Berry.
Oh. That's not a bad movie. Come on.
Funny. No, this is
Halle
awful.
Berry.
It is Halle Berry. This movie will make you ask, this girl won an Academy Award? It's not very good. It basically kind of takes the original source material of Catwoman and how she came to be, throws it out the window, and just does its own entire thing. There's no link to Batman in this film.
It's not?
Yeah, it's no good whatsoever. Basically, she's murdered and then brought to life by Egyptian cats, and she goes on a mission to get revenge and vengeance. And that vengeance is that the makeup company that she worked for has this anti-aging cream that if you stop using it, it will damage your skin. That's the plot of the movie.
Oh, it is?
Really pressing, really heavy,
So not saving the world,
stuff.
we're just talking old age wrinkles.
Cosmetics.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the movie. Not good.
But let's say she looked great, and she learned
She's
how
using
to.
the cream, that's why.
She learned how to use a whip. I remember her being on Oprah and showing off her whipping skills.
When your saving grace of a movie is, well, Halle Berry looked good, it is not really progressing anything great in terms of social commentary.
Good enough for some people to buy tickets, though.
I guess so. Whatever you're going for. So the next one is Suicide Squad. Now, I kind of junk on DC Comics. I am not a big fan unless they're the Dark Knight trilogy. This one I thought was going to change that trend. This looked great. It had a really solid cast with Viola Davis and Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto. People were excited. This was going to be its big event. It's kind of answer to the Avengers, but on the kind of villain side. Well, what came out to be was just junk. Like, I'm using that word a lot. It's inconceivable. It doesn't really make sense. A lot of the plot lines that it starts with, it doesn't really continue on.
So what characters are in this? I've never even heard of this movie.
So the characters you'll know is the Joker is part of it, and then Harley Quinn.
Is that his girlfriend or his sister?
His girlfriend.
His girlfriend, okay.
And the thing about those two, they have good performances. A lot of people have problems with Jared Leto's performance, which I understand, because when you're following up Heath Ledger, that's kind of
that's hard.
It's impossible.
Right.
You're not going to do it. But those two actors seem like they're in an incredibly different movie. They're giving really intense, artistic, over-the-top, melodramatic performances, while everyone else is in this very kind of dark, moody, serious. Will Smith is in it as well, and it's It's just not good. It's a mess. The action scenes, you can't really make out anything that's happening. It's just really quick cuts, unless it's slow motion, like this very intense trailer. It's just not good. And the thing about Avengers that I talked about, what I love so much, is you're handling all of these different storylines, all of these different things, these moving parts to kind of make them all come together and then that ultimate payoff.
Right.
In this movie, it doesn't have any of that. It's as jumbled up as you would imagine with handling all those things. So
there's no payoff at the end?
No payoff whatsoever. You don't really care because these characters you're not really connecting with, and everything is just like, it's like a jigsaw puzzle with different pieces from other puzzles. Like, it's never gonna work. And then the finished product, you're like, that's a puzzle? That's a movie? Like, that's kind of what it is, and it's not my favorite.
It sounds like stakes need to be worth something
for sure,
to make
or
something
just
like this
a director that understands story structure.
Or that helps. All right, what else is on this
So
list?
I'm picking on DC. I'm going to move over. Guess what? There's a Marvel movie I didn't like.
And you told me this is the last one I watched last night.
Of all the Marvel movies, this is the one you choose to watch. Thor: Dark World. Now, I love Thor. Thor is one of my favorite characters in the Marvel universe because he's funny. He's a comedic character.
Okay.
So all of his movies are really funny, especially the first one, and then Ragnarok, the latest edition, the third edition, was hilarious. It's so funny. This movie's not really funny. There are moments where there's humor kind of interjected, but it's really serious and kind of heavy, and it doesn't really mesh with the first edition and then what becomes of it later. This movie, kind of developmental, was kind of a mess. The director left. They actually went through 3 directors before they settled on the final one. A few actors left because they were not happy with how the director was treated, kind of in a little bit of creative control. It's not great. And with Marvel, the best thing about it is they have this really proven success record of everything they do well. And this movie just kind of lets me down.
But don't you need to know the brothers' relationship to go on to the next one?
Yeah, for a certain extent, I didn't really remember anything that happened in this movie. Of all of the movies, this is the one that's kind of the least remarkable and most forgettable. The crazy thing is this is actually played into with Endgame. And so I had made my list of what movies I was going to talk about. I was like, nothing is important in Dark World. You don't need to see it. And then I watched Endgame and I was like, oh, maybe people need to see this movie because they tie into it.
There's a little piece of it?
There's a little piece of it. It's not too much of a spoiler. I promise no spoilers. No spoilers. It's kind of important to see. So I'm glad you watched it.
Okay, I'm glad I watched it.
So when you get to Endgame, I was like, I remember that, but it's not that good.
But Thor in general is
just
the comedic relief.
For sure, and it's important. And they
one
just
of
kind
them.
of get
I
away
feel
with
like
that.
all the characters are kind of
And that's why Ragnarok, the third edition, is incredible. It's nothing like Dark World at all. It kind of throws out some stuff from Dark World, it kind of acknowledges the mess up, and it just takes its own. But the last one, my least favorite
of all time
of comic book movies.
Okay.
Comic book movies.
Batman vs Superman.
I've heard of this one. Okay.
It's awful. And
it's awful.
And you should think about it because it's like these are 2 mega powers. Like, this is everything that you could ever want for in a movie. You've got the storyline of Batman. You've got the storyline of Superman. It should be great. And I compare this to Game of Thrones. I know everyone's talking about Game of Thrones. This is movies, not TV. But the best thing about Game of Thrones is the moments where they take 2 characters you love and they put them against each other.
Yeah.
This has happened a few times in the series to where they're fighting and one person might die. And as an audience member, you're incredibly captivated because you don't know what you're rooting for. You don't know who you want to succeed. You both want them to live. You don't want them going after. But the stakes and the reasons behind it is completely founded and makes sense. This is like the complete opposite. They made a movie with Batman vs Superman where you kind of both want them to lose.
You want them both to die?
Exactly, and that's because Ben Affleck as Batman is terrible.
I was going to say, as soon as I heard he was playing it, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, it's
and that's terrible to say.
I know. It's basically if they cast a cardboard cutout to play Batman. he's just too serious and brooding. It's terrible. And then Superman is like if the lead singer of Dashboard Confessional got to play Superman. It's just so emotional and heavy, and this movie is terrible.
So this doesn't answer the question, because how many times have you had that discussion when you were a kid growing up? Who's better, Batman or Superman?
And the worst part about this movie is the scene where they decide that they are going to be buddies and fight together is when they realize that their moms have the same name. Like, that's it. They're
so
like,
no one
Martha,
dies?
Martha, that's my mom's name. And then they decide to fight together.
Aww.
That really happens.
So it's a Mother's Day movie.
Sure. But that's not what I was expecting. I expect a movie like Jane Fonda whenever I go see a Mother's Day movie.
See that?
Not Batman and Superman.
See, but you can spin it like that. You can give that to your mom for Mother's Day. Give her Batman versus
Especially if her
Superman.
name's Martha. Then you can all fight together.
Oh, if it's Martha, it's even better.
Your own form of Justice League.
But if I wanted to find a place where I could find all these quality movies that you just talked about, is there one location that would have these?
Classics.
Yes, Video Warehouse, and it's completely fine. Sometimes it's fun to watch terrible movies and make fun of that, and then just throw popcorn at your own television screen and yell at it. But all these movies are available at Video Warehouse at Franklin and Merle Hay. They have everything. All the DC comic book movies are all the Marvel movies. If you want to continue your stretch onto Endgame, it's all there.
As you
They
say.
probably have some pretty good movies too, don't they?
Yes, they have plenty of good movies.
I want to make sure. Okay.
Which we'll go back to talk about good movies last week. I just had to get angry.
I'm going to go to Video Warehouse. I have 3 more main ones you told me I have to watch, and then we're going to go to Endgame, and we'll compare notes.
That works. Wonderful.
Love it.
Great. Thank you, Cinemaniac.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you so much. It is 9:20.